In this video, we're going to talk about the resume. There are so many different opinions about what a resume should look like out there. There are so many resume writers and people who have been successful with different formats. So use the information that I'm going to be sharing here as just a data point along your journey. I feel that there's some valuable tips that I share. I'm definitely of the mindset that simplicity wins in this game of getting noticed quickly. So let's dive in. The first section is the header. The header should have just a handful of items in there: your phone number, your email, a link to your LinkedIn profile, obviously your name, and your job title. It's strange to me that a lot of people don't put their job title that they're going after at the very top of their resume in bold. What people are doing, as far as recruiters go, and they're sifting through resumes, they don't want to have to actually look at the job titles you've had in the past and try to decipher who you actually are. They, as a recruiter, have a particular role at hand that they need to fill. The next section is the summary. This is an important section to sell yourself. The resume is a sales tool. You have to think about it that way. It is all about selling your most important achievements to the employer at hand, and hopefully the achievements that showcase what you've done in the past and how those things translate to what the employer that you're going after actually needs. In this case, I made a sample resume. Here I've stated that the person is a pragmatic marketing certified senior product manager with 14 years of experience driving multiple products from conception to launch. I also go on to say that they drove $7 million in 2020 revenue by launching B2C products that enable personalized experiences for customers, as well as B2B analytics products that help businesses optimize their ad spend. This is just a sample of what you can do. Sometimes I like to structure this as, here are the top 3 achievements that I'm most proud of. Number 1, achievement X. Number 2, achievement Y. Number 3, achievement Z. What we don't want to have in this section is a bunch of language like data-driven, results-oriented team player. This is kind of the common theme that people wind up defaulting to in these resumes because job descriptions tend to default to that language as well. We don't want to play in that pond, even though descriptions are written that way. And even though we believe that applicant tracking systems are looking for those things, what we need to focus on in our resume is the achievements. It is a sales tool. Remember that. Sales tool. Sell yourself. The other thing we have in the summary section here is expertise. SQL. I also put agile methodologies. I also put AWS Cloud. If you're certified in anything in particular, put that here. You definitely don't want to put things like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel. These are things that we are expected to know in the industry, and if we don't, it would be just a huge shocker. So don't waste the space. So if you're really good at SQL, put SQL here. If you're just basic, or you just have basic skills in SQL, don't put it here, because what somebody could do is try to test your SQL language, and they would say, geez, you put SQL on here, but you can't even do a whiteboarding exercises for a small data model. So you don't want to mislead anyone with the summary of skills section. The next section we have is the professional experience. I like to focus on only 3 to 5 bullet points per job, and I also like to focus on a particular structure for each bullet point. That structure goes something like increased X by doing Y over X period of time. Many people in tech think about goals in a time-bound fashion. What did you increase or decrease over a said period of time? I don't want to generally see somebody that has 5 bullet points from a job in 2010. I probably only want to have 1 bullet point there, or for that matter, if it's a job that's not really related to what I'm going after anymore, I may only just have the company name in a single line item with the job title and the date range. If somebody wants to double tap on what I did in that arena, they can gladly ask, but I'm really trying to focus on the most recent experience that is related to the role at hand, and downplay anything from the distant past. I want to see achievements. That's all that the employer actually cares about. The job title itself often garners most of the responsibility style information that I need to know as a recruiter or hiring manager. For example, if I was a product manager at another organization, then generally I don't need to talk about user stories or prioritization. It is an inferred piece of my role that I've been doing those type of things generally. So I'm not trying to waste space by putting that information. People can definitely ask me about that if they like to, but I'm focused purely on achievements. Another piece here is sometimes the company names are not well known. The Amazon brand is a well-known brand, Microsoft is a well-known brand, but there are divisions in these companies that you're in, and it's important in a lot of cases to highlight the division that you're in. If you're at Microsoft, Microsoft is a huge company. So you may want to say, if you're in the cloud division, put that in parentheses. Another thing is if you are at a company that is very small or a mid-sized company that may not be nationally or internationally well known, put a brief description in parentheses, either right after the company name or just under the company name, of what the primary function of that company is. For example, you might have a $20 million a year marketing company that specializes in X, Y, and Z. That provides me enough context as I dive into the bullet points of what you do within that structure. One last thing that I forgot to mention when it comes to bullet points, if you place a number on there, remember that the interviewer is going to probe on these questions to try to find out if you're actually telling them the truth or not. They are truth seekers. That is their goal. They want to understand what you did. And sometimes when I ask somebody about the revenue growth that they drove or what have you, what I often uncover is that they might have been able to just sleep in their job and have that thing that they said they increased happen organically. Many software products have a natural rate of growth year over year. You have to have conviction on the rate of growth that you impacted above and beyond what the natural rate of growth might be, as an example. So just be prepared for the deep questions on these type of bullet points that you put in there. Know your story really, really well. No fudging on this stuff, because they're going to find out if you're not telling the truth. Next up, we have additional experience. Sometimes I like to call this the unrelated experience section. Sometimes people have a lot of different styles of careers and educational backgrounds, and they're constantly pivoting into different careers. I like to just have a section that kind of summarizes some things that I've done in the past that maybe are unrelated. It shows that I've been in the workforce, but the topic is not really relevant to bring up. If I've had unrelated job titles, I just put them as single line items. Some of my experience might be volunteering experience. You can think of it that way as well, but just summarize with single line items, things that really don't matter anymore, or things that are just from the distant past, so you can save white space and focus on the actual narrative that matters towards the job at hand. Lastly, we have the education and potentially the professional development sections. The education section is pretty straightforward. Put your degrees on there, put the date ranges in a single line item. You may actually add a sub-bullet point with any of these things to talk about some of the relevant coursework that you've had which relate to the job. Another thing you can do is add your GPA, but unless it's a stellar GPA or if you're summa cum laude or something like that, really not relevant to put it on there. What we find over time, after you've gotten out of school for a few years, nobody really cares about what your GPA was. They really just care about your relevant job history. Last thing, professional development. If you've done anything like Scrum certification, or in this case, pragmatic marketing certifications, definitely put those things on there. Also, you may want to put a couple hobbies on there. I'm a huge proponent of putting those on there because they set you apart from the crowd.